Hi everybody, welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm Bill Whittle. It is Thursday, the second day of October. I hope everybody's doing well. This bloody Streamlabs desktop giving me more problems. I think we're going to do what we talked about before, where we'll just stream out of OBS. And I got to be careful of the Twitch people. You know, they're very protective of their identities. I think what we'll do is stream it out of one because I'm just sick and tired of it, and the second one is just garbage. And then we'll run the regular walk-ins like we usually do, and then we'll just say when we're getting ready to go, we'll just ask the guys who are on Twitch to just refresh their page, and we'll start the stream again, this time with YouTube included, and problem solved. I think that's the way to go, because it's I had pictures that I had one picture from Washington, but I couldn't. It just won't load into Streamlabs desktop. But in any event, that's neither here nor there. Let me see if I can. This is certainly not optimal. In fact, I don't know if this is even going to work. No, you won't be able to see it. I'll save it for Monday. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I mentioned in YouTube, on Facebook, I'm feeling kind of feisty. I think getting out of town for 2 or 3 days did me some good, and some other things as well. So, first of all, I mentioned I've been, having this 3-4 month long oral surgery without anesthesia on getting the sign up for the website, and it hired a bunch of people overseas because the prices are like a 20th. And finally, I just realized the whole sunk cost fallacy aspect of it, and I just said, all right, that's it. So I hired an American, and turned out the guy lives in Florida, and he's considerably younger than me. He's 20-some years younger than me, but he went to the same high school area I did in South Florida as a really highly rated professional web developer, and was a sheriff's deputy for 13 years. So. And he got that baby done perfectly. It is actually linked to the wrong account. We should have that fixed in another hour, but we are ready to go at long last. So there's a website that says Roadrunner? There is. And looks like it's finally working. And man, I'll tell you what, just seeing that thing actually work the first time was just like, it's like coconut butter, on my sunburned soul. So it's showtime. Time to get going and all of that stuff. So that's really good news. And the great news is, I'm going to hire him just to be kind of, once we get all the problems fixed, we're going to do this on a job by job basis. Did he say what the issue was? Asked Marisha. No, he didn't say what the issue was, but I'll say what the issue was. The issue was it wasn't lack of due diligence, it was lack of due suspiciousness. I hired a number of developers over the course of the last year and a half, all of whom had 5-star ratings on either Upwork or Fiverr. 260 jobs, and the only thing that I can think of is that all of those are fake, and it just never occurred to me. Honest people, they they're easy to sucker, one time, and that one time is about a year, but none of them could have been real, because what these people do apparently is they know enough, just enough, to be able to post it, and they just didn't have a clue. I would have done a better job with it than they would have. And it took me a long time to realize that. But the second I got a hold of a guy who really knew what he was doing, it was just like instantaneous. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to bam, 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 bam. And then after we get that done, we can do these things if you want to, or we can do these things over here. We're going to have security here. We're going to add these all little, all these bones. I said, great. And then, bam, done. So, so there's that. People are mentioning that Charlie Kirk's middle name was James, so that we could literally call him James Kirk. Yeah. Yes, I'm talking to you about Charlie Kirk in a minute here. Anyway, went to D.C. for was there for 2 nights, 3 days. Natasha was going to go, and then just before we just before we bought the tickets, her arms or forearms started hurting a lot. Not so much where the break was, but just a lot of tendon and muscle damage was done, and she was getting to be really, really hurting a lot, and it just didn't seem like a good idea. So I went by myself. She's doing better now. We're just at the surgeon earlier today. Took out the interior stitches. She has a practically invisible line where the doctor glued the epidermis together, so there's no stitch marks. He's a magician. No inflammation. We're just at the doctor's earlier today, but she wasn't able to go. I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but I was really looking forward to her to go so that she could see the kind of funeral that my dad had. Now, my dad, as mentioned several times, was just a second lieutenant in the Army. Then he got to Germany a week before the war ended, was an intelligence officer there and did some time as an MP, and then was ready to ship out to Japan. And for some reason, he decided he wanted to be interred at Arlington. And when I did that, it was the first thing I ever wrote. It was the first political thing I ever wrote in my life. It was called Honor, about the 2 days, it's about 2 pages of my experience there, which was 23 years ago this month. And so I wanted her to come and see the thing that had such a profound effect on me that it got me started on this entire career. And then she couldn't make it, and I felt sad about that. We got to Arlington, and I saw all this stuff at Arlington, and I started feeling like, really bad that she wasn't able to see it. And then, because it was October 1st, and we'd asked, is there going to be any, is the service going to be on, because it's the government shutdown? They said, no, the services will still be on. But we got out there for Dick Rutan's ceremony. Dick Rutan, 5 distinguished flying crosses, just absolute, honest to God, war hero. Yeah, Steve, I pretty much got that done. So we'll have all of that security stuff. I'll mention that too. So we got out there, and I was, preparing for the same thing we had with my dad, which was they would drive us out to a location. We'd get out of this gigantic kind of a minibus. There would be, for my dad, it was 40 guys in the honor guard, another 40 guys in the Army band. There was a flag draped caisson with 4 horses. I don't remember whether or not there was a boot turned backwards in the saddle. I actually don't remember seeing that. I kind of think that I would have. And then, so for my dad, we all got out there. It was October, just October 1st. It was late in October, and it was really cold. It was early in the morning, 23 years ago. And we started marching, and the guys just doing the clicking the drums on the rim. And I've told this story many times. We're going through Arlington, and it's beautiful. We went past these 2 oak trees, and the sun came out. I swear to God it did. And then the brass opened up with this triumphal kind of a, just this blast of trumpets like Caesar coming home. And it just blew all the crud off of me and got me really motivated and doing that. Fanfare, thank you, Lady Hawk. But for Dick, we were all in a line of cars, and they had us drive in a procession out to the grave site, and the Air Force Honor Guard and band, which was, I don't know, at least half the size of my dad's, was standing there on a pretty steeply sloped hill, and there was no horse-drawn caisson, no march, no parade, no band. The band was there, but they didn't play anything. And I was, the second I realized what was happening, I was enormously relieved that Natasha wasn't there for that. Dick did get a flyover. He got a he got 4 T-28s, T-38s rather, and he should have gotten, well, he should have gotten the frickin' Thunderbirds, to be honest with you. So all of that was disappointing, and I took it kind of hard because I'd been there before. But it's only yesterday or today, I guess, that I finally realized that that Dick was so spent his last 10 or 20 years so contemptuous of the federal government that I think he probably would have regarded it as an honor that the, the government was shut down the day that he went in there. Oh, you got ads again. I keep turning that on. I think I have to turn it off before I start the stream. Let me just fix that. Hang on a second. Let's take a second. Sorry about that. Where'd it go? Yep. Just keeps coming back on again. That should do it. Hopefully you won't get any more after that. Thanks for mentioning. So that's hopefully that got taken care of. So the whole thing was I turn them off and I save the configuration. I do it every week. I don't know what to tell you. I think I have to turn it off and keep it off. I probably need to go into settings or something, which I'm not going to do now. So let's see here. Get the. That's a nice freeze frame. Hang on, I just want to get the comments up where I can see them. So yeah, I'm looking old in these freeze frames now. It's like I don't remember looking this old. Probably because I wasn't this old. I'm older now than I've ever been before. Do you know that? That's disturbing. Anyway, yeah, and I'm a little off center too. Let me see what I can do about all this stuff here. Hang on a second. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to do it too worried. That's fine. So anyway, that's the Washington thing, and I don't know really what to add to that other than to say it was a different experience at Arlington for me this time, in a lot of ways, and some of the stuff I kind of want to talk about tonight a little bit. Red Runner says Bill's wearing a red shirt, so he may not get much older. No, that's exactly right. I don't know what it is. I think I talked about this before. I got this kind of I mean, these aren't like age spots. At least I don't think so. There's some kind of subdermal kind of thing here, and I keep getting it treated, and I keep going to the dermatologist once every 6 months. I'm going to just have the whole instead of fixing the potholes, I'm just going to repave the road. I'm warning you now. I'm just going to do it. I don't know when. It'll be a while, but when I do, I'm just going to have the whole thing laser resurfaced, and I'll probably look like 11. Yeah, and I'd like to keep it short tonight because I have some work to catch up on as usual. But in any event, it's good to be here. So I do have something important to talk about, more philosophical, and I'm be curious to know what the feedback is on this. I'm going to do this without mentioning any names, but I am growing increasingly concerned with people on our team starting to really lose their minds, Look like Deadpool. Thanks, man. Without the mask? No, I'm not going to get plastic surgery. I'm just going to get them to have a laser and burn my skin off and have it grow back in. I'm getting really, really concerned about it. I got back and caught up on X, and I'm looking at things that are I'm really getting concerned for the country, and I'm getting concerned for conservatism. The number of people that are jumping on these kind of conspiracy things are just alarming, and it's not just the conspiracy thing. it's it's um, it's a lack of reason. Right here, okay. Yeah, I think I got a little nick there. Um, Matt Harris says crazy trains. Yeah, um, I'm seeing now people who are complete. Roger Ramjet says the left has lost their ever-loving mind. They did that a decade ago. The right is starting to lose their mind. The I'm seeing lots and lots of people who are saying we don't, there's no way that this could have been done by the guy shooting from 200 yards, that Charlie was wearing a exploding lavalier microphone that shot through his neck somehow, that you can see directly behind Charlie. I've seen this more times than I care to count, actually. That you can see up behind Charlie, there's a 4K hologram projector, and the whole thing was a hologram, and that apparently Charlie just slipped down the trap door was there. People genuinely believe this, and not one or two. Um, he was killed by Mossad, or maybe he was killed by TPUSA, or maybe his wife had him killed, or all of this, and I can't sit still for this. It's just it's really got to be aggressively fought, and that's going to create a lot of steam, which I don't usually generate, but I've thought about this quite a lot, and it's just getting really ugly and scary. People's inability to reason. Uh, you know, a number of conservatives have said that the moon landing didn't occur. That dropping the atomic bombs was a war crime. That 9/11 was either done by the government or by the Israelis, and on and on and on and on and on. And had a discussion today with a friend of mine who, Trinity Waters says, spend less time on fringe website commentary. This isn't fringe website commentary, Tom. This is people who are getting 4 million views a post. Yeah, 3i Atlas is an alien spaceship, and so on and so on and so on. Had a discussion with a friend of mine, and he said that that we complain about the left tearing down statues and destroying American history, rewriting slavery, the whole 1609 project, all of this destruction of U.S. history, and how appalling that is, and how un-American it is, and how destructive it is. And at the same time, a lot of those people who are complaining about the left doing that genuinely believe that 9/11 was an inside job and that the moon landing never happened. And it's like tearing down statues. The moon landing was the greatest achievement in human history, and it is the greatest achievement in American history. Americans did that. And 9/11 wasn't done by Israel, and it wasn't done by Dick Cheney. And Coffee Shinato says, everything you've ever been told is a lie, and people are believing this. And it's getting very, very, very dangerous. There it is. Coffee Shinato says, everything you've ever been told is a lie. Now, listen to me. Marisha says, I do think there's also a portion on the right that thinks conservatives can do no wrong and never did. I think our track record's been really good, but I'll tell you what. See, Bucka5 says, I have a coworker who's conservative, but he believes all of those things. Moon landing, fake, flat earth, Israel killed Charlie, 9/11 inside job. We gotta, the first step to solving a problem is owning it and realizing that you've got a problem. And we've got a real problem. That number is growing, and it's growing on a daily basis. Part of this is due to the fact that a lot of people don't don't feel like they need to push back against like the flat Earth series. A lot of people, serious people, say, well, come on, it's just a fringe group of people, and you don't even need to give them the time of day. And it's like, no, it's growing. People genuinely believe this, and the reason is because our educational system has been so bad for so long. It's not even that people don't even know how to think critically anymore. It's that they don't even understand the basics. We are living in the glory days of Dunning-Kruger empire. It's just absolutely amazing how ignorant people are about these issues, and the Dunning-Kruger effect says the more ignorant you are about a subject, the more certain you are that you know everything about a subject. And I got to tell you, I saw the guy who does the Y-Files interviewed on one of these podcasts. It's a big podcast. I forget his name. He's kind of like a Joe Rogan guy. I want to say Sean something or whatever. And he was on there, and I've heard that he like spends 45 minutes kind of promoting a conspiracy theory, and then he kind of shoots it down at the last minute. But he was talking about this and the moon landing, and he was saying all the problems that he had with the moon landing. Sean Ryan, that's the podcast, I think, that he was on. And so the guy from the Y-Files is saying, and it turns out more and more people believe the moon landing was faked. And he said, I hope I wasn't part of that. And I said, well, you effing are part of that, dude. You absolutely are. You are a huge part of that. You're doing it for clicks. And his show is excellent, and there's a lot of great stuff he brings up. But when he says things like the moon rang like a bell, because one of the things that this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about like elemental thinking problems, right? So in one breath you get a lot of people don't think we went, and Van Allen radiation belts, right? Yeah, and the Van Allen radiation belts and all this. Nothing confident, nothing like no, we absolutely went, and I'd be happy to spend the next 10 hours with you, and you can bring anything you want up. But this isn't a maybe or a kind of, right? This is absolutely provably true. So, and then he says, well, what about this? The moon rang like a bell, and a lot of people think, this is the guy from Y-Files. We did a show on the moon and how odd the moon is, and maybe the moon is hollow. Now, really, the moon is hollow? Could be. There's some strange things about our moon. It's the Y-Files guy. Yeah, some strange things about the moon. Could be hollow. They said that when they impact the rockets, and the rocket hits the moon, the rocket that sends the Apollo modulator hits the moon, and we have seismographs on the moon, and the geologist said that the moon rang like a bell. That just seems really odd. And I'm saying to myself, oh, the seismographs that were put on the moon by the Apollo landings that never happened, those seismographs, are those the ones you're talking about? Those are the ones, right? The ones that we didn't put on the moon because we didn't go to the moon, those seismographs that are telling us about a hollow moon, are those the ones you're talking about? And it goes on. I just listen to these people, man, and I just say, does anybody know how to think anymore? Ever. We have the ability to predict the moon's position to within a couple of inches, largely because of the laser reflectors that are also put on the moon by Apollo astronauts that didn't go. But my point is this: if the moon were hollow, then the physics of the lunar orbit wouldn't work. If the moon were hollow, then there would be missing mass, and if there was missing mass, that would affect the orbit of the moon. And we know the orbit of the moon to a couple of centimeters at any given time of the day. So they don't even know enough about physics to be able to understand that if the moon were hollow, then the moon wouldn't behave the way the moon behaves. It's just plain unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And yeah, as Scorched Nut 191 says, you believe in space, in quotes, like, you idiot. It's the firmament. It's the ice wall. It's just. TBA 113 says the Y-Files got relegated to entertainment status with me when he had back-to-back episodes where the cure for cancer conspiracy was fake, but the 100-year light bulb conspiracy was totally plausible. Yeah, and because, and by the way, you never know how much of the evidence that they cite is actually real or made up. But one of the things that they say is that Tesla, when he died, the second that Tesla died, cars were everywhere, swarming over his apartment, took all of his files away, and that's why we don't have free energy and cars that run on water. And I know what Tesla was talking about when he was talking about transmitting energy and free energy. He was essentially talking about using static electricity as a form of energy. And Tesla was wrong about that. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And just because he can generate sparks inside of a metal cage doesn't mean that he was able to power the entire world on free energy, and that's why he had to be killed, or whatever. There's just so much. There's so much bad information that is allowed to flourish. Here, this is actually right exactly what I wanted to say. There's so much bad information flourishing because our intellectual immune system is gone. We don't have it. Steve Collins, perfect. I'm so glad you asked this question, because this is the one. This is actually the only question about the moon landing hoaxers can ask that is very difficult to answer. Steve Collins says, "Why can't we go back?" Well, NASA said that we lost the technology to go back to the moon. We didn't lose the technology to go back to the moon. We didn't lose the technology to go back to the moon. We lost the will to go back to the moon. I was at the Udvar-Hazy Museum 2 days ago, and I walked up to an actual space shuttle, and you cannot believe the size of that thing. And that monster consumed 30 or 40 years of our development. We just went around in the same circle that John Glenn went around with. We just did it in a DC-9. And I look at all of this weight that they're hauling up into low Earth orbit just to deploy a satellite. All of this, and then I watch SpaceX. I saw one the other night. The timing was perfect. 3 nights ago, just before I left, I think it was. There was a Vandenberg launch right about 45 minutes after sunset, and this beautiful, brilliant white plume and all of it. We can't go back to the moon because we are not willing to go back to the moon. We didn't lose the technology. We just lost the will. And this is virtually impossible to explain to people. I have a hard time believing it myself. But that's it. And so now the big thing on the moon landing conspiracy thing is that they erased or lost the tapes to the Apollo 11 telemetry. Okay, I'm sure we went to the moon. You lost the tapes to Apollo 11 telemetry? First of all, I don't know if this is true or not. The guy from Wi-Fi Files said that NASA wasn't releasing the tapes, that they were feeding the networks of tape, and that they were broadcasting on a wall. But even if they lost the videotapes of Apollo 11, doesn't negate what we all saw. It was recorded by hundreds of thousands of people all across the planet when it went out. And so the data is there. And by the way, if it turns out that the losing of the Apollo, if this is true, I don't even know if it's true, it's probably not true, but if they did lose the telemetry, which is just the numbers, right, on Apollo 11, then fair enough. What about Apollo 12? And what about 14 and 15 and 16 and 17? Why? And they don't have the ability to think. John Ogilvy, that is such a great line. I'm going to steal that. And I'm probably not going to credit you because I won't remember to. Every time I try to remember somebody's name, I do. But that's exactly right. John Ogilvy says America lost the technology to go back to the moon in the same way that Ford lost the technology to make the Model T. Baby, that is absolutely golden. We didn't lose the technology. We outgrew the technology. And if we knew anything about physics, if we'd had any kind of education in this country, we would know that this, we didn't have the computer power to do it. Computer power to do what? What? This is a simple equation. It's a simple Newtonian mechanics. It's very, 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 very simple. Well, the computer on the Apollo spacecraft has less processing power than your iPhone. Much, 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 much less. But you know what nobody mentions when they talk about this stuff? Is that the computers they had back at NASA were the biggest and fastest computers in the world. And NASA was talking to the astronauts every second of the mission. So all the in-flight hardware had to do was the simple velocity and gravity calculations to get the engine to burn for the length of time that it needed to, and then the radar altimeter did the best. And Dave Big Booty took a line. I mentioned this before. We had the best computers in the entire world. We had Neil frickin' Armstrong and Buzz frickin' Aldrin looking out the window, and landing on that. And I assure you that it is more difficult to land on an aircraft carrier than it is to land on the moon. I have no question about that whatsoever. To explain to them that NASA lost we didn't lose the technology. We to some degree we lost the skill, but what we really lost was that we lost the will and the confidence. So now we're going back to the moon in February, apparently, a mere 3 years after the last Artemis mission or whatever it's been, and this time we're going to go round the moon. And the conspiracy theorist says, some guy at NASA says, well, we're going to have to go through the radiation belt, so we're going to have to figure a way to shield against that. And they go, what do you mean figure out a way? It's like, yeah, we have to figure out a way to go through to shield the Artemis capsule. I thought you said you already went to the moon. Yeah, we did. But that was on the Apollo capsule. We have to figure out what the shielding is going to be on this one. And then this other guy, I think is one of the 4 crew members on the upcoming Artemis mission, said, it's going to be really incredible. For the first time, we'll have humans in orbit around the moon as well as low Earth orbit. And all these people leap out of their seats. What do you mean the first time humans in orbit around the moon? Did you not hear the rest of the sentence? No, they didn't. They didn't hear it. They didn't. It didn't get through. It didn't get through because they're crazy. They're losing their minds. Yes, Eric's right. One of the most frequent and irritating aspects of these online conservatives is how they think they're such experts on body language and lip reading. And to that, let's add radiation dosage, and let's add rocket science. Let's add ballistics. Let's add what's the word I'm looking for? Forensics. All of it. They're experts on everything. So now you got people looking at the Charlie Kirk assassination, and they're looking at every single one of these things frame by frame. And this is how you lose your mind, is when you go frame by frame. I remember this very, very clearly. I was in LA for the Rodney King riots, and I support the police. And I understand that Rodney King was a huge guy who refused to comply, that he fought back, he hit the policeman. I completely get that he was not being compliant and that they had to use physical violence on him, and so hold that thought. When I was watching the Rodney King trial, the defense attorney for the policeman were saying, okay, go back to frame 133, and Rodney King's on his back. And then he says, okay, now just run 5 frames. And you see Rodney King's like his right shoulder, he's on the, and his shoulder goes like this. 5 frames. And the defense attorney says, you can clearly see at this point that Mr. King was trying to get back on his feet in order to continue the fighting. And they just kept doing this like again and again and again, right? And I was reminded of something that a law expert said, and he said, a really good lawyer can convince you that an elephant can hang off the edge of a cliff with his tail tied to a daisy. And that's exactly right, because they break everything down into these tiny, tiny, tiny little steps. And somewhere in this process of getting everything down to these tiny, tiny little steps, they make an incredible leap. But that leap isn't mentioned, and you have to find out where that actual leap is. So it's like, you've seen this, a lot of engineers have seen this. It's like lines and lines of equations on a blackboard, and then there's one line here, and then a miracle occurs, and then more lines and more lines and more lines on the other side, right? So my point is, when you look at the selected frames, you can make the case that Rodney King was trying to get back up and bash the police. But when you play the video in real time, what you see are 4 men with sticks beating a man nearly to death. And that's what it is, right? That's what it is. It's just plain 4 cops with sticks beating a defenseless guy on the ground. And this kind of thing is it's just so endemic to the entire thought process. we're going to frame here. Here's another frame. Oh, Charlie's shirt jerk came up this way, which means he must have been shot from behind. What do you know about ballistics? What do you know about high velocity impacts? You know, you cannot apply day-to-day experience to these kind of things unless you're an expert. Now, with that said, I don't have any problem with people looking into things. There's some things that seem a little funny about a lot of this stuff, but I haven't heard an explanation that beats the one, you know, that we all saw. And you've got all these people, and this guy turned around, you can see fires the shot here. Some of these people think that that a guy with a trigger, they really think this. And I'm not to mean like some people, I mean hundreds of thousands, maybe probably millions of people believe that some guy standing off to the side pressed a trigger at the exact instant that this guy took the shot, and that the shot was there to cover the sound of the explosive, which is his microphone. Hello, Lord Bios, good to see you. So what is the chance that you can just push a trigger at the same time as a gunshot? It's impossible. Your brain has to hear the gunshot, react to it, process it, send a signal. What is it? Nerve signals travel 60 miles an hour, something, 70, 80 miles an hour, back down the arm to push the trigger. If this thing were one guy trying to hit the same exact time as the guy who takes the shot, you're going to hear two different things. And it just never frickin' ends. Never ends. I see people saying, well, this guy is running over these chairs, he's contaminating a crime scene. It's like, I wonder how many people who've been in a burning building trying to escape a burning building realize that they were contaminating an arson crime scene, you know? Like, this Monday morning quarterbacking, this atomizing an event that flows in real time and is crystal clear. There's no question about what happened in real time. But when you break everything down to these individual little tenth of a second things, you put them all in little itty bitty boxes. You go, this is a little suspicious. That's a little suspicious. I saw this one guy on the way in today, and he was saying, I have conclusive proof that there were 5 drones flying over the scene of Charlie's assassination. And he shows, here's some birds. You can see that these are birds are flapping. But this, and he shows you this kind of square-looking thing. And then he says, just not even with a sense of what he's saying. He says, now this, what do you make out of this? Look at this square thing. It's got these sharp edges here and these lines here. What do you make of that? I got this. I saw this thing on this video. I blew it up. I enlarged it 2,500%. Oh, you enlarged it 2,500%, did you? I saw Phil over here in YouTube, I think. My friend Phil Trick, who was supervising us youngins up on the Southern Cross Observatory in Museum of Science in Miami, where we had an excellent view of the new sodium vapor lights that they'd installed in Miami. Really couldn't see much of anything up there. But Phil and I and a bunch of other guys would spend our Friday nights being, you know, chick magnets up there at the Southern Cross Observatory, pointing to things. And Phil was the guy who told me that you can have a telescope this round, like you can go down, buy a little Tasco telescope for $40. And he said, you can put 2,000 power magnification on that. I thought, really? He said, yeah. This is how I learned so much from Phil. He always knew exactly how to just like I had a little nose ring, you know, just like follow him to the truth, you know. Yeah, you can make it 2,000 power. Wow. Let's do it. Yeah. What are we going to see? What are we going to see through a telescope this big if we magnify Saturn by 2,000 power? You're going to see nothing. You're going to just see a blur, because in order to magnify something, you need resolution. You can't just expand a low resolution image. This was before the computer age, but now for those of you in the computer age, take a 200 by 200 pixel image and blow it up to 4K and tell me what it is, right? I honestly don't know whether to this day, I still have a hard time believing that people would lie like this just for money. That's how naive I am. Um, I still have a hard time believing that people would just openly lie and do all this damage for money. That's my problem. Yeah, that's my problem. But when I was debating this guy, I was working at I told the story, I think, once or twice before, but it's been a while. I was working as an editor, and I was known as, scientific skeptic. I have a good scientific background, and I'm certainly have. Dave Big Boutte says, "Bill, have you met people?" Apparently not. I've only met members. Yeah, Deporter in Chief. That's kind of the topic I'm kind of dancing around here. Okay, Scorch. Hey, Scorch. By the way, good seeing you, man, and thanks for submitting yourself to the Gen Z thing. We'll talk about that on Monday night in detail. So the bad faith is what do they call these things? He would set up. I said, "Show me your best evidence," and he'd show me something, and I'd look at it for a while, and I'd think, "Oh, okay, I know what that is. Yeah, that's a fish tank. That's the bottom of a fish tank. It's turned upside down. You can see the particles are not. Those aren't UFOs. Those are particles in a liquid, and you could tell. And here's an image of the space shuttle with a 40-mile long gravity tether." And I said, "Well, if you look at the width of the tether and you look at the width of the space shuttle, that means that tether has got to be about what? 70 feet wide? Okay, well, what about this?" On and on and on. And they just keep coming. And one of the things he showed me was slow motion footage. What did they call these things? Damn it, it's on the tip of my tongue. These alien creatures flying through the scene, right? And they're long, and they have little legs on the front and back, and they go whoop, 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 frame by frame like this. They're long streaks with these little appendages on them. Whoop, 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 and then he'd freeze it, right? And he'd show me this. He says, "What do you think that is?" I said, "Well, I don't know exactly what it is just yet, but I'll tell you one thing. It's very, very close to the camera. It's very, very small." "How do you know?" "Because we can tell how it's moving against the foreground." Then I said, "Can I see this played in real time?" "Yeah, sure." So he played it in real time. You know what it was? It was a bug flying through the air. It was like a bug, like a horsefly or something. And on a digital camera, it streaks. Okay, so why didn't you show it to me in real time anyway? Because when you do play it in real time, it is clearly a bug. It's moving exactly like a bug. There's no mystery about this. Why are you giving it to me one frame at a time and then enlarging and enhancing the details on this thing? You must know that you must know, right, that he's lying. And I just have a hard time dealing with people that are intentionally lying, but nevertheless. No, they had a word for it. It was the thing for a while there. This it's a new kind of alien. I mentioned this a week or two ago. This Bob Lazar. Again, first, just back up. The first time that I ever realized that I am unusual and shouldn't be, because everybody should have been doing this, was when I saw back in 2015. It was right after Inconvenient Truth came out, and it was an ABC special, Our Climate Catastrophe. And ABC was announcing, was saying, you have to see this. If you care about the future, if you care about your families, you need to see this documentary on ABC News. Wow, okay, it's got to be pretty serious. So I tuned in, and there was Peter Jennings, or whoever it was. It might have been NBC and Tom Brokaw, but it was one of those guys. And he's wearing his red parka, and he's standing on this beach in up near the North Pole, and he turns to the camera and he says, "We're here in late September. The last time that it's been ice-free in this area in late September was 40 million years ago. Our planet is changing, and it's humans that are causing it." And I just said to myself, apparently, well, who caused it to be ice-free 40 million years ago? That was the first thought out of my head. Just the first thing I thought. You've just shot your entire theory in the foot in your opening sentence. So, then you go. Nurse says, Bill, sorry to be rude about this, honestly, but why don't you just arrange to interview and challenge these people directly on your platform rather than bitching about them from afar? And the short answer for that is that I couldn't make any money off of that until I got my website sorted. So that's that. So yeah, I am more than happy to deal with all of this stuff. I don't like this, and it's getting real ugly. Getting real ugly. And crazy. And I think, truth, reason, and sanity. Those are the three pillars of it. Truth, reason, and sanity. But man, when I think about how much work there is to do and how unprepared people are for being able to tell what's real or not, and we're just dipping our toes into the whole AI video things, when now it's like anytime anybody sees something that they don't like, it's AI. I don't know, man, it's getting really, really dangerous. Mr. Stark says, David Icke used to joke, I guess the dinosaurs and the SUVs caused prehistoric climate change. That was my thought. But I watch these guys, Rogan and Sean, and somebody says something outrageous, and they just lean into it, and their eyes light up like they're 3 years old. Really? Mm-hmm. Wow. Really? Okay. I remember I was going to say about Lazar. Lazar was saying once we got the reactor on this UFO going, it just generated unbelievable amounts of power. You just couldn't believe how much power this thing generated. And I thought, number one, Bob, give me the procedure for starting up the reactor. Number two, describe in detail the instrumentation that was used in order to start the reactor. And number three, tell me the instrumentation that was used to indicate how much power it was generating and how you were able to interpret how much power it was generating based on the fact that the units that they're using couldn't possibly be our same units. So first of all, let's start with the instrumentation. Tell me step by step how you started the reactor. Nobody ever asked these questions. Nobody. I've never, ever have I seen it done, ever. Oh, we started up the reactor, and it's like, really? Yeah. Oh, and then the thing started to hover off the ground and everything. Oh, okay. So how'd you start the reactor? Oh, how'd you start it? Okay. And then when you say it began to hover off the ground, did anything around it hover off the ground? Were the rocks underneath it hovering off the ground? How high off the ground did it hover? Now, something like how high did he hover? People just say 9 feet. Did you feel yourself being pulled towards this thing, pushed away? Nothing? Yeah. Couldn't make it through the Van Allen radiation belts. That's a real blocker, man. Okay. So how much radiation did they take, and how much does it take to kill you? They can't tell you. Markham Inc. says, Ion Power Group has developed an ion collection system that gives us energy cheaper than anything else, and it's available forever, 100% nature made. I get the feeling this is going to be, like flowers or something like that. Anyway, I am going to start going out and dealing with this, and I'm going to start getting a lot of genuine heat over it, which I don't particularly mind, but it's going to be nasty, because any time now that I've seen on anything, like I saw a sniper saying that people are talking about exploding microphones are nuts. This guy was a professional sniper in the military. And he said, it's clear that he was shot from 200 yards away by a guy who was aiming for center of mass and missed. He didn't aim for the neck. You can't aim for the neck. He shot for center of mass and he missed by 6 inches, hit him in the neck. And if he'd missed on the first round, he would have chambered a second one. That's why he had 4. But this sniper basically just said, look, I'm a professional sniper. I'm telling you, this is what it looks like. And people said, well, looks like he got the call, or looks like he got the check, or looks like AIPAC wrote another check, and looks like another guy, you know. G Money says, Bill, so hard to take you seriously with that insane hair thug you got going there. Is that a SoCal thing? Where'd it go? Oh, it just was redacted. I didn't do it. Yeah, it's a SoCal thing. She says, part of why I'm willing to believe the official narrative regarding Charlie Kirk is because who's in power at the moment? If Biden were in charge, I'd have serious doubts. Yes, so for example, see, I'm not an unreasonable guy, okay? I'm not. It seems clear to me that that this was done by the guy for the reasons stated. Now, the Butler assassination, that guy was known to be there for 45 minutes. He was known to be on the roof. People were trying to call the Secret Service. I have a very, I cannot think of a explanation for that other than the fact that the government pulled most of Trump's Secret Service protection, left him with what was obviously the incompetent buffoons, and ordered them not to poke around or take any looks. I mean, really, seriously, I have no doubt about that whatsoever. So I'm not one of these guys who like automatically thinks that, you know, the official story is true. And by the way, we have found out nothing about that guy. Did you know that? Nothing. He's not included on the list of transgender shooters, but he apparently was. I saw before it was taken down, and I'm not saying it was taken down because of giant conspiracy. I think it was taken down largely because it was fairly graphic, but the Butler shooter was lying in a pool of his own blood, and he appeared to have like hair down to his shoulders here, and he sure as hell didn't look like that little kid that they trotted the picture out on him. So what do we know about that guy? You know, nothing. That was the Biden administration. You know, if you don't trust, I'll get to the questions after this. My logic is this. Dan Bongino, by way of example, has already proved that he's not easily rattled by being a New York policeman. He's already proved that he's willing to die for his country by being a Secret Service agent. And we know that Dan Bongino spent the last 3 or 4 years railing against the deep state so that nobody could possibly imagine that Dan Bongino would eventually be in a position of power at the FBI. It's just simply unimaginable that he certainly wasn't behaving like that, and it just seemed like it was just not possible. So I trust Dan Bongino, and I trust him because I have lots of reason to trust him. I've never seen him lie. I've never seen any accusations that he made not be true. So if I'm going to let my preconceived emotional needs override the reasonable trust that I have in Dan Bongino, then there's something wrong with me, at least in terms of my ability to get to the truth. And, you know, oh, he got the call, he's bought off, he's paid off, Israel paid him off, whoever paid him off, deep state, you know. He's bringing down the deep state. They're all bringing down the deep state. Kash Patel is bringing down the deep state. Donald Trump is bringing down the deep state. Didn't Candace Owens say today that that Trump sold out the American people by selling TikTok to the Jews? Was that today that I heard that? So who's the conservative here? You know, who's the conservative, and what is it you're conserving? This anti-Semitism used to belong to the old school Republicans, the yacht club Republicans, and you know, Trump sold out the American people to Israel because a Jewish guy bought TikTok. Well, I guess that proves it then, huh? So what happens when you become so certain in your belief that you become so narcissistically certain in your beliefs that the only evidence you need is that you believe it? G Money says, Bill, you're as anxious as we all are to listen to Dr. Chelsea's podcast. I don't know if it went as well as her mom's or Michelle Obama's, you know, and Gavin Newsom. They go out there and they do 3 episodes and no one listens to it, so they move on to something else. Hey, Deporter-in-Chief, could you? Is there any chance you could get me a link for that and post it in the Twitch chat, the Joe Pags video? I'd really like to see that. Yeah, can somebody explain to me the beekeeping thing? I've heard people mentioning the bees. I don't. That's something I haven't figured out yet. So yeah. Anyway, thank you. Oh yeah, I saw a little bit of this. Oh, hang on. Yeah, so here's Joe Pags talking about some of Candace's questionable activities, and I'm looking at the comments here. Here's one: getting your BB bucks. I have no financial connection to Israel, BB, or any other nation, state, or leader. Any other questions? Somebody else says, thanks, Joe. How much did you get paid to post? I just unfollowed you. Cry a little more. Why do you care? Is this an issue for you? Do you want to derail her? It's really none of your business, and she is free to be and say what she wants. You're defining what a journalist is by listing your awards as just ego talking. So Joe is basically saying this is what professional journalists do when they're trying to report a story. I'm just looking at the. I'm more in many cases. I'm more interested in the reactions than I am in the story. Was this one of those $7,000 posts to try to discredit Candace? The reason why she has the platform she does is because she comes off as an honest, genuine person. And if you don't like the way she investigates or tries to encourage someone to do the right thing, maybe help her. It's about 5 to 1. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to get away from the show, but it's just sometimes it's actually. Okay, well, whatever. Let's go to questions. I'm just deeply, 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 deeply concerned about this. Okay, no, we'll see. All right. I'm going to get out of here fairly early tonight because I missed our regular shoot date. I have to be in tomorrow morning in the chair at 6 a.m., so try and catch up a little bit of sleep here. Remember, we go. Just all questions for 10-2-25. Doesn't take 4 days to come up. Amazing. Thank you, Eric, for curating this today. All right, here we go. Marusha Dark topic: Civil War. Bill, you previously said you don't think civil war in the U.S. will happen because it's not going to have a clean break along state lines like the last time. However, Tim Pool has been making the case that the American Civil War of the 1800s is an outlier, more akin to conventional wars in continental Europe, and that most civil wars, especially in the modern era, are closer to what you see in Syria, Egypt, or Libya. That's an interesting point. As opposed to standing armies between sovereign states, it would be pockets of violence, riots, lootings, assassinations, bombings, arsons, urban skirmishes, terrorism, lawfare, insurrection, all of this right alongside people going about their normal day. Well, in that case, we've had a civil war for the last, since 2008. All of this right alongside people going to work on their normal day a few blocks away who are blissfully unaware of anything noteworthy is even happening. Well, if you're unaware that nothing noteworthy is happening 3 stores down or 3 drives down or whatever, is that actually a war? Would you call that a little bit of a exaggeration? If your case is there's a war going on right now all around you, you just can't see it. I mean, that seems a little over rhetorical. It's not that we're currently seeing. Is that not what we're currently seeing or likely to see soon? Maybe this is the fruit of the fourth turning. We're still living through it. My prediction is this will likely continue for 10 more years, after which we'll see a harsh authoritarian crackdown and overcorrection from whomever follows as Vance's successor. Thoughts? I think, well, first of all, the fact that that there are federal troops in Portland fighting Antifa means that there's still hope for the country. I, honest to God, did not think I'd ever see that. I didn't think I'd see it even if Trump won. When I was talking about things to come and the fourth turning and all of that stuff, I was saying there's so much rot in the inner cities. There's so much rot and corruption and violence and entire generations of people who have no respect for the law, and it's just like going down to your basement, just finding the entire structure just completely, eaten out by termites. But if it had genuinely been eaten out by termites, then we wouldn't be fighting. And I think we're winning. I think dealing with them on the streets is great, but taking away their money is a big part of it. And frankly, from what I've seen of Antifa, and I've been watching Antifa since Antifa first showed up, the Antifans don't particularly care to be arrested. They're very, very tough when they're wearing their black masks and their black helmets and their black gloves and their black boots and their black shirts and their black pants and all the other things they have to fight fascism. But generally speaking, when they get arrested or hit back, they fold. So I think if you arrest enough of them, you're going to basically break up the organization. I'm not saying there's not a significant number of hardcore, ready to shoot and kill lunatics out there, but I also believe that if you can force those people to show their hand, they're no match for they're certainly no match for U.S. Special Operations troops. Lady Hawk says one Antifa got arrested and he was shaking in his chair. So this is what happens. We saw this after 9/11. All of these people after 9/11, all of these Islamicists joined Al-Qaeda. And then we started killing them by the tens of thousands. And recruitment went way down. And the same thing here, this is their chance to act like tough guys and give themselves moral authority and virtue signal and push people around, which is what they really want to do. I think there's a lot to be said for this. They don't want to kill you because you're a Nazi. They call you a Nazi because they want to kill you. I think there's a lot to that. But they're not hard enough, to be, I think, a genuine threat. The quiet people, on the other hand, I don't know, man. I'm speaking for myself on some level here. And I know I'm speaking for a lot of people here, but when these people are saying, "Oh yeah, well we're going to go to war with the right and we're going to do this," it's like, dude, we won't even have a chance to reload, you know. Honestly, you really, really, really want to have that conversation? You really, really do you? Because I know a lot of people are kind of looking forward to it. And so, you know, this is related. Let me just make sure this isn't a question. Hang on a second. I might do this for a right angle tomorrow. No, okay. The thing you know that should worry you would be, are there any signs of actual genuine dissent bordering on treason or mutiny in the armed forces? That's really the bottom line. I believe that Americans are fundamentally moral and good people, and if the orders being given to the National Guard and stuff, let me just deal with this. Sorry, Stephen Collins, where can we watch your new stuff? It's at BillWhittle.com, and we're gonna be trying out a bunch of stuff now in the near future. Looks like the thing's actually working, so you know, I'm out of excuses. So there you go. But they're not. They're the rank and file guardsmen are not joining the other side. You know, that's what usually happens in when you're facing like a genuine collapse. When the government soldiers go over to the side of the protesters, then you've got an actual dictatorial regime that's about to fall apart. But that doesn't seem to be happening. So I think that, like I said, I think the most dramatic change since Charlie Kirk is that we are now. That's what I meant to get to, Joe Sebia. Hegseth blasting the fat generals, admirals, and troops. Do you see a picture of those admirals sitting in that room? Do you see the expressions on their faces? They were not happy. They were not happy at all, and I thought that was a really important moment. And look, I don't know. This is to me part of intellectual honesty and not being in a concrete mindset. I'm watching those generals reacting to Pete Hegseth, and I'm genuinely asking myself, is Hegseth doing the right thing here? I mean, is he? What if these guys are right? You know, what if Hegseth is essentially just a hothead who drank a lot and all of these generals who you know, dedicated their lives to all of this other stuff? What if they're right? What if Hegseth's wrong? And I think about it, and I just play it out, and what I come to is things that I just believe in automatically, viscerally. When I see fat soldiers, I get nervous, and when I see fat officers, I get really nervous, and when I see trans officers or service people, then I'm like, my blood starts to turn cold. Marusha Dark says Trump seemed overly tired and rambling in his speech to the generals. I thought so too. I don't think he should have said a word to the generals. I don't think he should have said a word. I think he should have just it's not my problem. He's my defense. He's my Secretary of War, and he talked to me about this, and I agreed. So I don't need to go there. It's not my job. It's the War Secretary's job. But thank you, Steve. But when Hegseth is saying, look, we're doing all of this stuff because we've lost our way. We're not going to have celebration months. We're not going to have Gay Pride Month. We're not going to have, Labradoodle Month. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to train up to kill people. And he said, officers who cannot meet the minimum physical fitness requirements, it's not a good look. And he's right. This is the thing about R. Lee Ermey. I mean, I don't know how old he was when he did Full Metal Jacket, but he looked fit, and and so you respect a guy at 40, 50 who can look as fit as somebody in their late teens or early 20s. I have seen under the Biden administration progressively fatter drill instructors, even in the Marines, guys who are like, bursting the buttons, and there's nothing that that guy's going to say that I'm going to respect if he can't maintain his own physical fitness, and drill instructors are supposed to look like they're molded out of carbonite. They're supposed to look like they're titanium fit. No belly fat at all. Super slim waist, broad shoulders, strong arms. That's what a drill instructor has to be. It's not just should be, has to be. If you're going to try and get kids who are out of shape into shape, you can't do it if you don't look into shape. And that's why R. Lee Ermey was so great in Full Metal Jacket, because he clearly could do all of these obstacles on the obstacle course. He was running the marches with these guys, and these kids were just panting, trying to keep up with him. That's the only way you can gain the respect necessary to make those kind of changes in your life. So when Hegza says, look, you've got to meet the minimal PT requirements or else you're out of here, I'm thinking, sounds good to me, man. But they all just look like he was raining on their parade, and that's exactly what he was doing. And when Biden was president, I must have said it 50 times. I would rather have a military that is half the size of our military. I understand how overstretched we are, but I'd rather have a military that's half the size or a third the size of our military if everybody in the military wanted to be there and was highly motivated. I really don't see anything but harm coming from people you can't depend on. And all of these, look, I believe it's in a free country, and I believe in the right to disagree with things. I don't even have a problem with a service person making a video critical of the president, but not in uniform. You do it in uniform, you're cashiered. It's just that's just the way it goes. Just no, you're out. Goodbye. And some of these people, there's so many different versions. Some of them are like, Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka says, we have the wrong kind of doughboys today. You got that right. But if you want to be in the military and protect the country, then you should just immediately get out, because we can't count on you. And there's the only thing worse than not having somebody you need is having somebody you need who you can't count on. That's much worse. And I just think that what he was doing was great. So as far as the Civil War aspect goes, it's going to be it's going to get dirty, man, and it's already messy, and it's going to get messier. And as the left continues to dry up, they're going to get more and more desperate, and the more desperate they get, the more violent they're going to get because of their psychology. And so be prepared for that. That's the price we have to pay to fix this, to treat this cancer. The thing that I'm concerned about right now is potentially fatal side effects, like having conservatives become conspiracy lunatics who can't even reason about anything because their ideology is so rigid and angry and uneducated and inflexible. Inflexible doesn't mean morally flexible. It just means, you're not thinking. You're reacting. We're supposed to be the grown-ups. We're supposed to be the ones who are the unemotional ones. We're supposed to be the ones who aren't the children. I should save this. Maybe somebody can remember to remind me on Monday night. But on the flight back, it's a completely unrelated topic, but on the flight back, I watched Pee Wee Herman as himself, a 4-hour documentary on Paul Rubens. As one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. It was absolutely magnificent. And I ended up liking Paul Rubens considerably less than I did before, but I also ended up understanding him much better. And and I'm a Pee Wee fan. Uh, I'm a big Pee Wee fan. Um, in fact, when I was watching that on the plane, I know this is an unrelated question. You get a bonus question for free. Um, uh, when I was watching him on the plane, I thought, you know, this is kind of that area where conservatives begin to short out a little bit. Um, the because because um, there's a place for childishness and a place for like rampant creativity and fun and all of those things. There's a place for that. Um, and I thought he was great. I just thought he was really funny, and in this documentary, you know, he was he got into trouble twice. The first time was at an adult theater in Sarasota, which actually happened. The second time he was accused of child pornography, which didn't happen. And and he was talking about what it's like to go around being accused of something you didn't do. I have some limited experience with that, accused in public, and this is a it's a crushing feeling, and and I ended up thinking, you know, where do you draw the line with this? Because uh, like I said, I think that I don't want to live in a society where you can't have a Pee Wee Herman. You know, I know most conservatives are not fans of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I love the Rocky Horror Picture Show because, and the difference is, I think, is that I'm not insisting that the Rocky Horror Picture Show be shown to 5-year-olds. That is an important distinction. It seems like they're trying to turn Ben Shapiro into a pop culture critic who said that there is nothing in Napoleon Dynamite that's worth watching. I'm not in the slightest bit surprised at all that Ben Shapiro would say something like that. But that kind of, you know, stick up your butt kind of thing is, it's it's unwarranted. You know, I love Napoleon Dynamite. I love it. I think it's. I don't think it's a one of the classics that must be preserved. But I just loved it. I just had fun with it. I thought John Heder was crazy good in that movie. I thought they were all crazy good. I thought it had a nice message with the brother getting married to the black woman. I thought it wasn't ramming anything down our throat. I thought the uncle who thought he was going to be a football star saying you throw a football over those mountains. I thought that was one of the most heartbreaking things that I've ever seen, and I deeply felt for him. Really felt for him. I thought the whole Pedro for president thing, you know. I mean, I know this all sounds like progressive stuff, and maybe it is, but John Heder isn't. John Heder was a Mormon conservative, but Napoleon Dynamite, having Pedro run for office, and having his family be proud of him and stuff, I just thought this was just great. I just thought it was great. I thought the whole thing was great, and Ben says, no, you know, Ben looked at Ben. I need to really listen to his whole review, but I suspect that Ben just looked at Napoleon Dynamite, and I don't guess Ben ever went through any of that. That's the only thing I can think of. You know, you would think that I don't know that Ben was ever bullied. Maybe he just didn't go to those kind of schools. That's what I got out of Napoleon Dynamite. I mean, for me, Napoleon Dynamite was a really great film because I think virtually all of us who are, you know, who think about things, who like thinking about things, I think virtually all of us at some point have been, tortured and harassed at school and being shoved into lockers. And we all saw this and we thought, man, I'm with you, dude. And I remember how much I liked tater tots because I came late to the party. I didn't get my first tater tot till I was 11 years old. And it was, and the way he won was so unexpected that this guy who is the greatest nerd ever committed to film could dance like that was just a really brilliant thing. But the whole Napoleon, I know for instance that Natasha would just hate Napoleon Dynamite, just absolutely hate it, because it's a cultural touchstone. He's like an example, is like an avatar of an experience that most of us experience that turned up to 11. But if you didn't have the experience, then I guess there's no connection there. But conservatives complaining about like Napoleon Dynamite and Pee Wee Herman and things like that, and equating that with like the drag queen thing. I mean, Paul Rubens was a drag queen, but he was a drag queen in his 20s at midnight in clubs in LA. He wasn't a drag queen reading to 6 years old. And I don't mean to be issuing a whole lot of spoilers here, but there's a voiceover of him taken the day before he died of cancer. And he's basically saying, look, I did a bunch of things that I know a lot of people don't approve of, and some of the things I'm not proud of, but the things I am proud of is, brought a lot of enjoyment to kids, and I had a lot of fun with them and told them that they could be creative and just have a good time and not have to be so rigid. And he said, for me to be associated with the word pedophile is just devastating. And they went into real detail about what he got caught with. He didn't have any child pornography. He had a lot of like antique gay pornography. And they looked at hundreds of thousands of pictures of everything they took out of his house. And this this just really broke his heart. And it was unfair. It was unfair. It's really what it is for me. I just can't stand injustice. I really just can't. And tetherball, right? Tetherball. I mean, who hasn't played tetherball? That is the dumbest, most intense, fun, and violent game I've ever played in my life. I've never been as afraid in my life as I was playing tetherball against my brother. Because tetherball, if you get a decent hit on the head or something, then you start that kill the enemy thing starts to pump. And I remember just spiking tetherballs. So anyway, got a little off track there, but that's not unusual here. Deporter in Chief says, Mirza Dark, not to beat a dead horse if you want to retreat from the subject, but why would all these people go in depth on Israel only to bury the lead? Yeah, it's this anti-Israel thing that is really concerning to me. It's a trap, man. Capital G Geek. In fact, let me just do something while that subject came up in the comment section. I know it's not related to a question, but this is our political show. Just happened to be looking this up because I'm getting concerned about this whole Israel was behind Charlie Kirk's assassination, Israel caused 9/11, all this other stuff. And I remembered the story. I didn't have a lot of details on it about George Washington insisting on recognition for. I knew there was a Jewish financier patriot who financed the American Revolution when Congress wouldn't, when the American people whose freedom was being fought for wouldn't pay money or give supplies to the Continental Army, and the American experiment was about to fail in 1775 in Valley Forge, and people were deserting it at an incredible rate, and they were dying of tuberculosis, and they couldn't pay for forget paying the soldiers. They couldn't pay for food or shoes or blankets, and the Congress wouldn't act. And Washington is out there by himself. I'm a huge fan of Washington. Washington, one of my all-time heroes and a man of astonishing character. And when the revolution appeared to be lost, a Jewish financier stepped forward and paid for it. let me just read you something here because not many people know about this. One second. I saw. Did I save it? Maybe I did. Come on. Did I save it? Hang on. Yes, here, check this out. This is one of my favorite memes of all time. While I'm waiting here, take a look at this. I have to bring up the screen so I can see it. I don't know. It's kind of an in-joke. Hey, Harm Solomon here. Look at this. Not everybody's going to get that, but I just love it. Rock, is this true? Yes, here we go. So this is something not everybody knows, worth keeping in mind during this the Jews killed Charlie Kirk firestorm. Chaim Solomon, Polish-born Jewish immigrant, was a key financier of the American Revolution. Arriving in New York in 1775, he became a broker and merchant, leveraging his financial acumen to support the Patriot cause. He joined the Sons of Liberty and was arrested by the British in 1776 and 1778 for his revolutionary activities, including being accused of espionage, which means they were going to hang him. But he used his imprisonment to gather intelligence and aid American prisoners. Solomon's most significant contributions came as a financier. He worked closely with Robert Morris, the superintendent of finance for the Continental Congress, and provided substantial personal funds and loans to keep the revolution afloat during dire financial straits. He brokered bills of exchange, securing foreign loans, particularly from France and the Netherlands, and personally lent money to the Continental Army, often without repayment. He did it without interest. He certainly did it without repayment. His efforts helped to fund critical campaigns, including the pivotal Battle of Yorktown in 1781, so there would have been no victory at Yorktown without this. Estimates suggest he provided over $600,000 in 18th century dollars in loans and donations, a massive sum at the time, equivalent to tens of millions of dollars today. He was known for his selflessness, often refusing repayment, and supported individual patriots like James Madison with personal loans. Solomon also contributed to the Philadelphia Jewish community, blah, blah, blah. If you react, no, that's it. He died penniless of typhus, or not typhus, tuberculosis, penniless. Dave Big Booty says, that's why the stars on the Great Seal are in the form of a Star of David. I had said that too. It turns out that may not be true. But in any event, he was funding the revolution when all of the people who hate Jews weren't. You know, they wouldn't give them bread, wouldn't give them supplies. Provenance was the term, I think, and so, or provender, and so, you know, got to be careful about these kind of things. Just real quick, you busted half nickel swamp. But would you take $100K cash up and be 10 years younger, or yes, 100K cash, 10 years younger? That automatically wins. Or 50K and 10% of your top biggest conspiracy theories answered in detail with facts, but you could never ever share the facts of the conspiracies. I would really like to be 10 years younger. Of course, I could always be 10 years older, I guess, because I'm just now starting to figure things out, and it kind of pisses me off. Capital G Geek, greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. For any of your government conspiracies, you will need to differentiate made it happen and let it happen. Yes, like the Butler thing was a let it happen. A lot of recent mass shooters were known to the FBI or ATF, likely groomed and pushed into action. See, that's where I have a bit of a difficulty, but let's see what he says. Like the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot, where the only non-feds there were just looking for free pizza. Yeah, that's right. And Provender, and the January 6th thing. How many FBI agents did they figure out now? Is it 250, 600, something like that? So yeah, man, I'm not a reflexive, knee jerk. Well, it's got to be true because the government says so. On the contrary, this is the whole purpose: is how can you determine what's real and what's not. Quite a few recent terrorists were encouraged by feds who provided the entire plan, maps, materials, etc., only to arrest them when they started following the instructions. Look, the federal government is absolutely riddled with corruption, but that doesn't make everything they do corrupt, and it certainly doesn't make everything that happened in history corrupt, right? Even if you were to buy the presumption that everything the government says is a lie, and frankly, that's probably the way to bet, that doesn't mean that that was the case in 1969 or 1963 or any of that stuff. Sun Wukong says, interesting fact, the Star of David has no historical connection to King David. Well, didn't know that. Anyway, back to this. For your 9/11 conspiracy, you should really address the rumors that there were people with foreknowledge who shorted airline stocks starting a few days earlier. Here's a video about the collapse of WT7 that goes into some structural detail. He uses an AI voice because of his accent, and the alternating lean of his bookshelf indicates he's a psychopath, but the data is good. Good, I'm looking for something like this. In fact, I'm looking for exactly this. 23,000 comments. And then one of them is, good try CIA, very nice animations. That kind of reckless stupidity really annoys me and concerns me. All right, CIA, we believe you. See, this we are really, really, really in real trouble, man. Which is kind of what I wanted to talk about. Let me finish this question, and then I'll run something past you guys, and then I'll answer Eric's question. We'll call it a night. Anyway, so that was the question. So I'm going to watch that shortly. So look. I've been out of the public eye for quite a while now, 6 years, and I often would just beat myself up saying I just sat around 6 years, did nothing. But during those 6 years, I did 4 historical series, and I did the math on them. I did 32 one-hour historical episodes over those 6 years. 32 one-hour episodes, and they're really, really good. The problem is that very few people saw them, and if they had seen them, then I wouldn't be so underexposed. That was the deal. Daily Wire paid for them, and not only do I feel like they should have been made public, but to be honest with you, it's almost impossible to find them if you go to dailywire.com. You really have to dig for them, and I find that a waste. So I mean to get back in this game more. And I'm going to stand for reason, and I'm going to listen to arguments and criticism. To me, the 9/11 was an inside job thing is criminal in its excusing the murderers who actually committed the murder that day. None of us doubted what we were seeing when we saw it. And this is the thing about these conspiracies. I mentioned this earlier. Everything has to be broken down to atoms and then compartmentalized. But when you watch it in real time, there's no question about what you saw. When you watch Charlie Kirk get shot in real time, no question about what you saw there. When you watch the moon landing in real time, there's no question about what you saw there. So I am going to go out there, and it's going to generate a lot more heat than I've been getting lately, which is fine with me. But it seems to me that there's a lot of people out there who really need some kind of champion of reason, you know, reason, logic, and evidence, and arguments that are backed up by data. Some of these will prove, like I said, the conspiracy was false. Some of them will prove that it's true. COVID-19 was clearly an absolute orchestrated assault and part of a coup against Donald Trump, and filled with lies. It's indisputable. And so the entire point here is, how do we know? I mean, what's really even more of the point is, how do I know? I'm not saying I'm right about all these things. I'm just saying I haven't heard any better arguments, and I listened to other arguments. So how do I know? How do I know that one thing really happened, like the moon landing, and one thing that the government told us was true, like COVID-19, is just complete garbage? How do I know? I'm not on the same side consistently. I try to be on the side of the truth. So how do I know? That's what I'm trying to teach people, right? I'm not going to tell you that I'm right. I'm just going to tell you how I came to the conclusion, and I think that's basically it. And we gotta train up and sign up and encourage an entire generation of Gen Zers who understand how to think, and not what to think, how to think. And if they think I'm wrong in an argument, I want to show them how to beat me in an argument, because if they think I'm wrong and they can prove I'm wrong, then I'll change my mind, and I'll get even smarter. Yeah, I did look at them. Marisha, I glanced at them anyway. I've got them on a stack of things that I have to get done. Mark Mink says, I hate to miss all this, but I got to have heart surgery tomorrow at at 8, so I got to go. Hope I'm back for the next one. Love y'all. Keep rocking, Bill. Mark, I'm going to be looking for you next week, man. You better send us a text. Just log on in your through the morphine buzz, and check in and just say made it, okay? Because you got a lot of people here rooting for you, and a lot of people here praying for you. So I don't know if you're still watching, Mark, but everybody here is really rooting for you, and it's a lot safer than it used to be. So we're sure you're going to be fine, and we're sure you're in good hands, and we're sure that God's going to take care of you, and that we'll see you here next week. And if you're not, we're going to send out a search party, find out what happened to you. So best of luck there, pal, and check in with us as soon as you can. All right, good. You got to hear that. I'm glad to see that you got to hear that. Balzar, it's not a name I see too often, but a man after my own heart, says, tell him to use local anesthesia so you can watch during the procedure. I know there's one story about a guy who had to read a book on how to extract his own appendix, right? I know I read about that. Some guy had appendicitis, he had a medical book, and he drank a whole lot of something or other, and basically cut himself open, cut off his appendix, pinched off the wound, or clamped it off, and then sewed himself up. That's guts, if you'll pardon the expression. Anyway, good way to go, Mark. So yeah, it's a dedication to living. You bet. All right, last question here is Eric Blake. Tonight, the case of the 1-2 punch of liberty. So, Bill, there were two big potential victories since last. We all enjoyed the company of fellow strata loungers, so let's look at them both. First, I like hearing about taking more victories instead of more whips and defeats. First, Trump's announced a major investigation into the corrupt dealings of Soros and Son, particularly the investments in lefty domestic terrorist organizations like Antifa and BLM. according to the investigative reporter who exposed the evidence for the DOJ, it might lead to the financial crippling of Spooky Dude's network. Here's Glenn Beck's interview with the reporter if you want the details. I'm just, as a quick aside to something I just realized, you know, these conservatives who are convinced that, that Israel did everything find themselves on the same side as the far, far, far left, you know, that that whole free Palestine Antifa crowd. They find themselves standing shoulder to shoulder with them, and whenever I find myself standing in the same place as those kind of people, I take a real close look at my beliefs and start asking myself, what am I doing in this sketchy crowd? So anyway, okay, second, the YouTube overlords have confessed to Congress their guilt in censoring conservative content. Granted, they're trying to pull the old Nazi, I was only following orders and blame it on the Biden administration. But regardless, the floodgates are open for sweet revenge best served cold. Trump in particular has just sued the pants off YouTube, and now they're paying out the wazoo for Trump's White House renovations and paying a generous donation to, if I recall correctly, the runners of CPAC. So, still not sick of winning? I hope. No, I'm not. I'd like a check. You know what? I don't want a check from YouTube. I really don't. I want my 198,000 subscribers to get my content that they subscribe for. That's all I want from YouTube. I just want them to stop blocking my videos, because when I do a video gets 4,000 views and have 198,000 subscribers, something's not right. So that's what I want. Hopefully these two big announcements will follow through, and we'll see an end to shadow banning, especially for you and our friend Zoe. Yeah, I'm looking forward to working with Zoe again, and I am I've got a big hill to climb in terms of content to get out. But again, the roadblock was I can't come out and do a new firewall and release new content and promote things like, you know, truth bombs, and have people go, this is really exciting, let's go to his website and become members, and then not be able to take their money because I only have one chance at doing that. I know it sounds like an excuse, and it is an excuse, but it's also an excuse. So it looks like that problem is solved, and I did a test sign up tonight. It was perfect, went super well. It went to the wrong account at Stripe, but that's just a number enter thing. The membership fields are real clean, and everything is looking great. And this is what I get for hiring an American who knows what he's doing. And who didn't lie about his resume, who just actually, you know, delivered. I have to tell you, man, I had a number of comments, generally about 2-3 weeks ago, when I had a number of people say, either in the comments or email me saying, Bill, you got to do something about this website because it's just killing you. I mean, we can just see it's just killing you, and they're right. And when it just like worked, it's going to take me 4 days. This is what we're going to do, and it's like it worked. It worked the first time, worked perfectly, did everything it was supposed to do, and it was like aloe, you know, on a sunburn. It was just like, oh, this is what it's like to not hurt spiritually, not have your soul sucked out of you by constantly, you know, hiring somebody and paying an expert to do something that doesn't work. Busted Half Nickel Swamp said, Steven Crowder, changed my mind, new episodes, and the topic is The Left is Violent, changed my mind. Yeah, I saw Steve back out there again doing that. I'm going after the hearts and minds of Gen Z males. That's it. That's my mission from now on. I'm not going to ignore other people. I'm going to keep doing firewalls. Phyllis, if you can hang on just for another day. Yes, you can sign up right now. It's just that I had to open a second account at Stripe. I would prefer to keep all the new people on the new account. It was linked to the other one, but if you want to sign up now, you can. And if you if you could wait another day, that would be great. So, yeah, and I was watching a lot of stuff lately, older stuff, and just the kind of demolition work that a good firewall can do. Steven Crowder is spending $250,000 on private security each visit he does on college campus. See, my position on this is, well, first of all, I have no desire, and I haven't had for years. Um, Roadrunner says, if you want to get the hearts and minds of Gen Z men, you need to get some Gen Z women. See, I disagree with that. I think the hearts and minds of Gen Z men are done with Gen Z women, and the job is to bring them back to that. Thank you, Phyllis. Um, I think one way to get to the hearts and minds of Gen Z men is to get some smoking hot AI women, but they're not covered in tattoos and piercings. And they're chaste, and they're reliable, and they're loyal, and they're kind, affectionate, non-combative, all of those things. Busted Half Nickel Swamp again says Steven Crowder is now wearing bulletproof jacket and glass right now. Well, Steve has got absolute physical courage. It's not a question of me not having really the courage to do that. It's a question of me just not having the skin. It's not a question of like the physical concerns, is so much as I just find it exceedingly unpleasant. Carter Truman, I'm a 25-year-old seminary student. I want to help my generation as well. Besides running for office, which I'm trying to do, what would you recommend doing? Well, Carter, not to put too fine a point on it, but if you'd like to email me at info at billwhittle.com and put Gen Z in the header. I'm putting together a small task force of Gen Z consultants to keep me out of OK Boomer territory, and to talk to them about what it is they want to see and what they want to have done. I've got these truth bomb things, which are long format things that are coming up. I'm doing the firewalls; they're coming back to keep the existing members happy and try and get some of those back. Who, like I said, it's been 5 years of pretty thin content at BillWhittle.com. Really, really, really good content at Daily Wire, but no one sees it. So I got a big hill to climb there. But if you could do that, Carter, I really need your help. I was wrong about Gen Z, and I was wrong about I was just wrong about them, and I need your help. So I've got a lot of experience and knowledge and education and experience to pass on, and I need help doing it as effectively as possible. So anyway, I got these long format things called these truth bomb things, but I'm really excited about these 2-minute tutorials. Geography 1, here's the Earth. Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere. Oh look, Eastern Hemisphere, Western Hemisphere. Old World, New World. Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean. Okay, 7 continents: North America, South America. We'll save one for last. Antarctica, Australia. This big sucker here is Asia. This even bigger sucker here is Africa. And the last one is Europe, which is really, to be perfectly honest with you, not really a continent. It's just plain the way it goes. Europe is the only continent that you cannot tell from space as a continent. It's essentially just the Europeans kind of saying, we're a continent. But those are the 7 continents. And now, since we have 2 minutes, we're going to do the major countries, okay? If you come from one of these countries and you're not included, please don't take it personally. It's just a size issue. North America, Canada, United States, Mexico, South America, Brazil, Argentina, Africa, South Africa, Kenya, Egypt. Australia is its own country, continent, and so is Antarctica. Asia, Japan, Russia, China, Korea. That's it for Geography 1. And come back for Geography 2. We'll start sketching in some of this stuff, right? And when I see these people in New York City being interviewed on these man in the street things, it's like, name 3 countries besides the U.S. Name a continent. I think if you could show people 10 countries in the world, 10 of the most prominent countries in the world, you'd be doing a real service. Now, I did get an email, critical email, but very constructive critical email, saying you shouldn't waste your time doing this. You're a great storyteller. But she said there's lots of other things out there on geography. But yes, but none of them are entertaining. Nobody watches them. Yes, India, absolutely India, exactly. Um, so yeah, maybe continents on its own, and then just do countries as a second one. Yeah, you might be right about that. I thought about that. Maybe not muddy the waters. If you could just give people the general feel of the Earth, here's the East, here's the West, here are the seven continents, and essentially two oceans. There are more, but essentially, really, there's three, right? I mean, there's the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Indian. Those are the three oceans. Yeah, I think if you could do that, you'd be way ahead of the game. Um, and uh, and then geography too. Let's look at the major countries in the seven continents. If you don't know what the continents are, go back and spend 2 minutes on the other one. And then and then you just sketch them in. Sketch them in. Yeah. All right. I think we get everybody. Did we get all of Eric's question? If not, he's gonna have a bad week. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So I think I am going to be. I think I'm going to be ending this thing here for the time being. Oh, I did. And again, so just so we know, if you're watching on Twitch, starting next week, I'm gonna get rid of streaming off of two platforms. I just hate it. I can't stand it. Oh, thank you, Marusha. I appreciate that. I'll take you up on that. So for our regular Twitch viewers, it won't affect you on YouTube. It'll just show up from a different source here. But for our YouTube viewers, when I get to the end of the walk-in, I'm going to turn off the stream. Stream will end, and then just refresh. And then when it comes back on, it'll be streaming to two platforms. That way, we don't lose the Twitch walk-in, which I love as much as the Twitch viewers do. That's the old school. So the only sacrifice you'll have to make is just have to refresh your page, which will probably do itself when I turn the stream back on. But starting next week on Monday, I'm not going to be dealing with two of these things. It's enormously easier, especially since OBS is so much better than this Streamlabs desktop. You just grab something, just drop it in there, and it stays. So, Rich Dark says the only continent I recognize is Pangea. What about Pangea 2? Yeah, Pangea, man. All the Earth, all the ground. Yeah, I like the 2 minute things, and now that things are a little bit more liquid, I'm going to be doing a different look for the Truth Bombs thing. I'm gonna go with neon, even though I know neon is a little, not something that Gen Zers really get a whole lot of experience with. It just looks really cool. It's really, really cool. And if nobody likes it, then either you can all go to hell or I will. Probably me. I've been outvoted before, and I know good advice when I hear it. Gondwanaland. Gondwanaland. Yes. Yes, Gondwana. All right, so I think I'll wrap it up, man. Thanks for being with us here tonight. The show's made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com. Keeping my fingers crossed for that to get to be a bigger family in the very near future, and somebody's going to have to stand up to these people that are losing conservatism, and they're losing their way, and if they can convince me that they're not, then I'll change my mind. But I would love to have a debate on the moon landing with either Tucker or Candace, because that subject I know really, really well. Last comment of the night, because it's worth it. Video Shiro says, "Hey, if all the continents drained away, would we become incontinent?" Well, uncontrolled leakage is the definition of incontinence, isn't it? So I think you can make a compelling case there. Video Share, thanks for being with us, and it's great to see new names here, and thanks for everybody in the comment section for being around. We'll be back on Monday night. I have new animations of the colonies. I just took a break and just rendered a bunch of just structures this time, and I want to see them again because I really liked them. I thought they were cool. So we'll have some groovy colony stuff on Monday night to groove out on, and I'll do that. But right now, this show is made possible by the members of BuiltWorld.com. We're very, very grateful for your continuing support, and we hope to be able to make you a much bigger group than we are right now. So that's that. Okay, thanks for joining us on YouTube.